Hello and welcome to this evening with myself, Rachel. I am a healer, teacher, author, and modern mystic. Unfortunately, I haven't written any children's book, but this evening I am being joined by the wonderful Nici.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm all right.
I'm just going to put my dishwasher.
I put my heater on in my office at like 4 o'clock. So it's like semi-warm in here.
There's a little bit of heat.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, just as we were about to go live, Rach said, "Oh, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself." And I was like, "Oh, well, shit," because like I don't run a business anymore, so I'm just me. Hi. Yeah, so what I do, I run Real World Spirituality with Rachel, and I also run Nici Rambles, which is basically a holding space for all of my brain explosions onto paper, basically, about lots of different topics that I am interested in. So yeah, that's me.
Yay! This evening we are going to have a chat about some of our favourite books for this season. I'm just going to adjust my mic a little bit. Nici, when we were speaking about this the other day, it was really important for you, wasn't it?
Hugely, yeah. So for me, as a home educator, like that's one of the things that I do is I home educate my kids. Well, two of them anyway. And one of them abandoned me and went back to school, which is just rude. But yeah, so obviously around this time of year, kids, it's a little bit different this year, but most kids most years are doing lots of sort of Christmassy activities, and they're going to church or they're learning carols, or all of these different kinds of things. And for me, I'm not somebody who's religious at all. Have never followed an iota of the Christian faith. So actually, I tell a lie, I did sing a solo in church once at Christmas, but that was because I was made to do it and I was about 6.
Was it a Christian carol or was it a secular carol? Because it's really interesting. Carols have been around since before Christianity. So
it was the one that's the gold, the frankincense and myrrh. What one's that? You can tell how up to date I am on carols and things like that.
The Three Kings of Orient are.
Yes, that one.
Yeah. The one which actually all I remember now is the incorrect version because of my husband. Because
so I had to sing the bit where it goes and I like hit my note funny and I sounded like a sheep. So I was known for that little wonderful thing for a very long time. But yeah, so because I'm not Christian, I'm not in any way kind of related to sort of following along with sort of Christian things either. I've found it quite hard over the years to work out where I fit into Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And a few years ago, I kind of went back to my roots of being half Scottish, and had a look at the way that stuff was celebrated in Scotland, and that took me over the water to more Scandinavian type of celebrations around winter solstice and things like that. And that's where a lot of the books that I'm going to share are about. And what I really love about it is because there's a real heavy importance in all of the books about nature. It's about looking after animals at this time of year. It's about looking at our impact at this time of year, and friendship and connection, and all of the things that probably make a more traditional Christmas, like it's probably the same things, but it's just minus the bits that make me feel icky.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a couple of books that I have had on Kindle for a few years. and I've never been able to really get into the feel of it. So this year I bought them like actual books, and honestly, just absolutely beautiful. Having them, we're not formal home educators, so I do things like leave things out and around, and at some point the kids will be interested in it, or I'll pick it up and I'll read it because I'm interested, and they'll come along and snuggle up and want me to read it to them. So that's the kind of home ed that we do. It's more of a kind of scatter things around the house and people will pick them up. So these have been scattered around the house the last week or two, and they've all been read, and the kids absolutely love them.
It's interesting because just doing that reminds them to sometimes put down a tablet or make choices. And actually the more we can encourage them at this age to kind of just get into books and into reading and into using their mind and their imagination and all of that type of thing, the easier it is as they get older. And I'm not just talking about educationally, I'm also talking about in terms of their imagination and their creativity and their interaction, all of those things. Because let's face it, Nici, most of the work that you and I do comes from being able to visualize and use our imaginations. So, being able to kind of do that with a lot of this stuff makes, I think, a massive difference. Basically getting kids hooked on books at an early age.
And hooked on imagination, because like I'm not going to rant, but I'm going to say one small little thing, which is that like your imagination is your connection to all things, right? It's your connection to the universe, and it's the thing that kind of gets drummed out of you. And what's really beautiful is that if you can harness a relationship with books with your children, they're going to do well the rest of their life. And when my daughter was going back to school, she was starting year 7, and she had the head teacher come out and say, what kind of work have you been doing? Can I have a look? And she was like, no, because I don't do formal, I don't do workbooks and things like that. And she was like, oh, okay, and kind of looked at me for support of, oh my God, what are we getting into, having this home eder come to our school? And she said, what do you like to do? And she said, oh, I devour books. She said, I absolutely love books. And she started telling her about her favourite books, and she went, she's going to be absolutely fine. Like, she can read, she loves to read. We can't get kids in school to read because they don't enjoy it. And true to form, she's been absolutely fantastic in school and she absolutely loves it. But like I don't teach my kids about reading, I just read. I read books with them. I don't ask them to read to me unless they want to. It's all about like that imagination and actually going into the space that the book is creating for you. I'm not excited about books at all, as you can tell.
I'm really glad Dylan's just really got into Roald Dahl. So it's just like a Roald Dahl fest at the moment in this house. So I'm genuinely really happy about that. It's just all craziness. Totally, it's a sense of humour as well, which is really, really good. And actually, one of the books that I've picked up from our collection comes in on his sense of humour, which is interesting.
So what have you got?
What have I got? Well, it's interesting because when I said to you, I'll probably end up picking up some stuff that's a little bit more traditional. And it is traditional, it's just not Christian in the slightest. So and I think that there's a big misnomer around what is traditionally from this season and what is actually Christian, and those two things not being the same thing. Father Christmas, and yes, he did get amalgamated in with poor old Saint Nick at some point, who is a very beautiful soul. But originally he was the Green Man, which is why when we watch things like the Christmas Carol, when you read things like the Christmas Carol, he's in green. That the Christmas past is in green. So the 3 books I picked up, and actually one which we really read a lot in this season, but actually isn't Christmassy at all, but is very seasonal. Is this book, The Moon. It's actually just The Moon, right? It's I hate this because it's mirrored. So it's Britta Teckentrup. and she is a wonderful German author. And what's really nice about this book is that it's cut out.
Oh.
It's all time, it's all really dark, and as you go through the book, there's all different full moons, new moons, and the images. I'm going to show you the kids' favourite ones. This one is one of the favourites, which is the puffins, and you can see, like, it's got my hand in the right place. It's got the little cutout, so you can then kind of like go through. And it is a really simple book, but the kids love it. This is another favourite one, which is The Jungle at Night. Genuinely a really good book, and I've seen it recommended loads. But the reason why I think we read this one a lot at this time of year is because it's dark, and there's a real thing at this time of year about us embracing the darkness. And also, I don't want the kids to not be afraid of the dark. Like, I think that's a really natural thing for a child to be afraid of the dark, but to kind of embrace it and see it in another way, and understand that there's and this goes into what all the animals are doing at night, and all of this type of thing. It's genuinely a really, really beautiful book. And 9 times out of 10, Alice, a Scorpio, will choose this book because it is quite a dark book, but it's beautiful at the same time. So for me, it's kind of got, now I know she's German, but it's kind of got a Scandinavian feeling to it, with a lot of the imagery and a lot of the almost like this cutout feeling to some of it. So yeah, massive recommendation. Like, we seriously, you can tell, like, this is dogged. We love this book, properly love this book.
Love that.
What else? What have you got?
You know, the moon is like our friend over the whole of winter, isn't it? You know, because it's the one that's there most.
And I think that's a really good point, because we need to remember that as we're coming up to the point where there is more darkness, you know, than not. So the moon is definitely a friend at this time of year.
It really is. So this book here, the Solstice Badger.
Oh, cute.
He is gorgeous. This one is probably my new favourite. Okay. And it's written and illustrated by Robin McFadden. And basically it follows the story of the sun at the beginning of the world, when you had the very first creatures on the earth, and you had the sun and the moon were brother and sister, and you know, it was sun all the time. Like, the days were very long, it was always summer, and over time the animals and the moon started to notice that, you know, the sun seemed, you know, not to shine as brightly, and his sister the moon asked what was wrong, and he was lonely. So you know, what the story follows is you know, the search for a friend for the sun, and actually the what happens because the sun gets a friend. So basically he gains a friend called the Badger. Pardon me, sorry. Yeah, he gets his friend the Badger, and he actually is so busy having so much fun with his friend that he's not in the sky as long, and he kind of runs through the sky towards the end instead, because he just wants to get his job out of the way so that he can go and spend more time with his friend. And that's when the first winter is born. And it has some really, really stunning, deep stuff in here. I recommend this for adults as much as for kids, because it is absolutely beautiful. You know, the Badger goes and gives sacrificing gifts to the oldest tree in the wood, the pine, and you know, trying to rectify the problem that the sun has caused. And she explains that, you know, if he were to now just rectify the problem and just shine brightly all the time again, everyone would die from a flood, because it would melt all of the snow. So it was time for him to, over the next 6 months, start to shine longer again. And so the season of winter was born.
Nice.
And the Solstice Badger gives gifts every year on the shortest day to the animals, because they're suffering in the winter because of him and his friend. So he gives gifts to say thank you for being patient and kind and allowing the sun to have a friend.
Oh, nice.
It gives you goosebumps reading it, and the imagery in it is absolutely beautiful. I just want to find one of the sun.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really lovely. So it's quite hefty.
Yeah,
it's quite hefty. It's one to snuggle up with the kids, and maybe do different voices so that they don't lose interest.
Yeah.
But that's one that I've never read before until this year, and it's my new favourite.
Yay! I love a new favourite. Love it.
Yeah. What else have you got?
This is the human one, the dinosaur that pooped Christmas. Okay, so basically, my autistic 8-year-old is still very much in that poop is funny stage, and this he went through a stage of winning books every week at his school when they were giving them out, especially at assemblies that I attended. I will have to say I did put a lot of force into the fact that his name was going to come up to the top, and it rarely failed. So, but this book is a book that came out from that actually came out from the raffle, which was The Dinosaur That Pooped Christmas, and it is silly. It's actually by a couple of the lads from McFly, and it's just funny. It's just funny and happy and rhyming. And I think there's something about a book that rhymes, which the other book did. In fact, all of my books are rhyming books. And I think it's almost like that sing-song thing where, that's more fat. And, obviously this is the funniest page in the whole book. So it's just really, really silly about this dinosaur that's given in an egg by Father Christmas to this boy who's just got everything. This boy's just got everything, and the dinosaur decides to eat everything, including Father Christmas. So literally just everything. And then there's a plan. My favorite line out of this is its brain. With a feeling of guilt in the dinosaur's gut, its brain brewed a plan involving its butt. So, it's genius. It's quite literally like comedy genius for any kids. It is great fun. It is something to really sit around and laugh at. There is a very vague moral, which is, you don't, like, if you've got everything, like, why do you need anything more? Do you know what I mean? And it's kind of like that thing that until this kid's realised that everything's eaten, including his family, and he's left with nothing, that actually he would quite like everything back. And him, the dinosaur, obviously become friends at the end, which is exactly what you do with the dinosaur that poos Christmas. Now, so
what I need to understand is whether or not the dinosaur poops his parents and stuff back.
Yes. Okay. So the gross scene is them riding a wave of poop. Just riding a wave of poop. So really, it's just an excuse to connect poop into Christmas. And in our household, that's very much appreciated. So I think if you've got any goofy, geeky, like funny kids whose sense of humor is very much in that vibration, then they're going to love it. And I think there's a big issue. There is a big issue. We know that with boys and reading and all of that type of stuff. So if you need to bring in some toilet humor to do it, bring in the toilet humor.
Right.
You can't go wrong with a bit of toilet humor. And actually, I really enjoy reading that book as well. I just gave Alice one of these 3 books to read before bed, and actually, she ended up choosing this one. It was funny. So
that is funny. I love it. Good book.
Good book.
Another one that is new this year. This was written by Jennifer Hartman, and she is from Pagan Kids on Instagram.
Nice.
Look her up. Called Old Mother Frost.
Nice.
So this was one that was crowdfunded, or something.
Oh, wonderful!
For her to create, and it tells the story of Mother Hulda, which is the back of the book explains sort of more deeply about her. But basically, she is that Old Mother Frost and Mother Hulda are English names for the German deity known as, I'm going to get it wrong, Frau Holl or Frau Holly. So she's the goddess of the home, the spinner and the weaver, and she cares about the well-being of children. She's actually older than sort of legends of Odin and Thor and Loki, and some of her stories are older than Santa Claus as well.
It's really interesting when we look at things like even like Enchanted and the Mother Gothel figure that's in it, that figure, those old ladies that did weird stuff in forests, those are much older figures than we realize. So when my husband says no, these stories aren't true, I'm like, no, all of these stories are true, and then they're just based on a myth. So yeah,
completely. My favorite page of the book is this one, where she's so she sleeps all year until just before Yule, and basically when she awakens, she shakes her mattress, her blanket, and the feathers turn to snow, and that's why we get snow around winter solstice.
Nice.
Which is really, really beautiful. But it tells you the story of her, so it's an informative kind of book, but it's really sweet, and it has some really beautiful imagery in it.
Oh, I love that.
And this is her when she comes down to earth, and she becomes young again. So at this point, she's Mother Hulda instead of Old Mother Frost. And yeah, it tells you the three things to kind of look out for. So she's looking for children decorating their homes and crafting so that they know she's festive, that they're festive. She's looking for families having feasts, so she knows children are well fed, and therefore they're healthy. And she's looking for plates of cookies and a crackling fire, so that she knows that children are happy and warm. And if all of those things are in place, she leaves a gift at the front door. And typically, people who follow Yule and Yule type traditions would leave shoes outside the front door for Mother Hulda to fill.
Which makes sense with the Father Christmas. Like that was always a stretch of a story, that the stockings being used for this time of year. So that's obviously where it comes from.
Yeah. And then on the stroke of midnight on December the 24th, she runs out of time and goes back up to the sky as Old Mother Frost and sleeps until next Yuletide.
Cool. Love
it. It's just got it's really beautiful. It's short, and it's got some lovely bits of info for sort of families who are wanting to know more about, you know, the Yule side of winter solstice and Christmas.
I love that.
Yeah.
What I really like is also even the fact that the old and the new, so kind of like that Maid Mother Crone energy coming through in the book as well. Amazing.
Yeah, it was not lost on me. I was like, oh, I love it. It's so lovely. You've got another one?
I have. I have to go nip and get my battery plug because I'm an idiot. But this is like this is the most traditional one, which is The Night Before Christmas, the poem. And I actually love this poem. Like, I properly love it. There's something really beautiful in the rhyming and in the joy. And again, there's nothing religious about this. And actually this poem in itself has created like what we think is fact, which is the names of the reindeer and all of that type of thing. I literally love reading this in a really like as if I'd written it type of voice.
Is it like a nostalgic kind of?
Yeah. Really love it. This is, I mean, you can get you can have a really good look through Hey Tracy and find illustrations you fancy. This is quite nice. These are all sort of like images and cutouts. And this is my favorite bit, is a little sugar plum fairy putting dreams in a baby's head. It's the imagery within this book is amazing, and it really, the words, this is Clement Moore, the poems by. But what I really love about this is simply for the fact that he's quite clearly channeled the energy of Christmas really, really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's a Victorian poem, so the language isn't necessarily modern, but there is some real joy in bellowing this out and really singing along. So it's, you know, this is a proper Christmas Eve one for us. This is a proper, let's get some hot chocolate, eat loads of biscuits and read this one before going to bed.
Do you enunciate when you're...
Would you like me to demonstrate?
I'd love you to demonstrate, Rach.
'Twas the night before Christmas when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. So yeah, I do really go into it. I do love the theatrics, that especially we've been theatrical with kids as well. So I do love the theatrics that come with this poem. So yeah, I mean, this is a very sweet. This is Harriet Muncaster has done all the illustrations in this, but you can have a look around and see what you fancy, see what really resonates with you. This was, I think, one, you know, a Father Christmas gift when we went to see Father Christmas, you know, a couple of years ago, and we love it. Again, this is dogged. This is proper. This is proper. This is a red book.
Love it. So the other one I really want to share
in 1 second.
Go get your thing. Yeah. The other one I really want to share is the Nici by Eve Bunting. So the reflection is not great, is it? So yeah, the Nici by Eve Bunting, and this has a really different feel to it. So basically, this story is all about a family that goes into the woods every year. They chose a fir tree years ago, and every year they return to this particular fir tree and they decorate it in the forest. So when you're first starting to read the book, you think, oh, you know, they're choosing their Christmas tree to take home and decorate, but they're not. What they've done is they've bought, you know, fruits and nuts and seeds, and all of those kinds of things. Oh, Rachel's laptop's turned off. Nuts and seeds and all of those kinds of things to then be able to decorate the tree with, and it is really beautiful. They take hot chocolate with them, and they decorate the tree for the animals. And my favorite part of this is probably like the last page, I think. No, it's not quite the last page, it's the one before. So the little boy is saying that later in bed, I think about our tree, and sometimes the next day, when the aunts and uncles and the cousins are at our house and it's noisy and happy, I let my mind go back to the forest. I think of the birds having Christmas dinner and the squirrels and the possums and the raccoons and the skunks. There might even be a bear, because Dad says bears don't really sleep all winter. And if one's going to wake up, I just bet it would wake up for Christmas. Maybe a fox has come, stepping high on its thin, sharp paws, and they're all there together, singing their own Christmas songs on Christmas Day around our tree. And it's really beautiful. You know, they've decorated the tree with oranges and apples, and they've made like fat balls with nuts and seeds and all of that kind of thing. And you know, they've strung popcorn on obviously not actual string. I can't work out what they actually do it with, but you know, it takes a turn at the first couple of pages. It's immediately like, oh, I think they're taking their tree home, and they're not. They're bringing stuff in to feed the animals so that the animals have got something to eat over Christmas. And you know, when I read it, I remember Riley saying to me, you know, that's something that's a bit like what we do. And I said, yeah, it is, because you know, we take sort of fruit that hasn't been eaten and you know, nuts and things like that out on a walk with us, and you know, scatter that around so that any animals have got a little bit extra, especially where so many people this year have been out in forests and woods compared to previous years. You know, that people have done a lot of foraging and maybe haven't followed the foraging rules of, you know, take that small amount and leave the rest.
Yeah.
So yeah, like this is a really important book for everyone to read. So yeah, Anna, I got this particular one off of Amazon because it's not available on Bookshop. I try to get all of my books on Bookshop, but you know, not all of them are you know, available. So this one was on Amazon. It's quite cheap. I can't remember how much, but it came in a couple of days. So but it's also one that I think, if I remember right, yeah, it's also one that I had on Kindle originally.
It's really interesting that you say about you guys discussing your own house. That's the sort of stuff we do anyway. And something which we had a sunflower which grew and it was really pretty. And Matt said, "Right, I'm going to cut it down." I said, "Fine. Can you just leave the sunflower head with the seeds in it out so that any birds who come into our garden this winter can get those seeds?" And that feels really important. And it's interesting about the foraging thing, because I always say to the kids, like, take the best blackberry out of what you've picked and throw that back and say, like, that's like a thank you, because, you know, you can take too much and that stuff needs to go back into the ground or it needs to be left out. And actually we've got a pair of the cliff doves. They're actually, no, they're not, the wood pigeons, which live in the tree across the road. So we quite often go over with seed and put it out for them, because they're our friends, basically, is kind of,
yeah,
you look at it.
Yeah, completely. I mean, it's difficult for us because we can't safely put bird feed out in our garden, because otherwise the cat will have the birds, and you know, it's just, let's not do that. But what we do is down the alley, and you know, whenever we go to we go to 2 or 3 times a week to different woods and things like that, as part of our groups. Yes, Tracy. Yes, it reminds me of the gnome book we used to read at Nan's. Yes. Lauren made 3 litres of slow vodka this summer, but made sure I left some berries for the birds. Yeah, exactly. And, you know, we've also got to think about, if we've taken this much and then 20 other people come along and take the same amount, you know, is there going to be enough left for the wildlife? And
it's really interesting to see more people foraging this year, because normally I'd go out and there'd be nobody else out there, nobody else interested in thinking that you're a little bit quaint and a little bit weird for doing things like you've done, Lauren, which is to find a slow and go, oh, really? Okay, if I have to, you know, I just make up some gin. So it's interesting that that's actually causing more issues this year. Really interesting.
Yeah, because, you know, people haven't been able to, you know, people weren't able to go to the park, for example. They were closed, so they were going to the woods. And all over winter, you know, not being able to have very many people in your home. A lot of people were going out to, you know, have picnics and things like that again in woodland, the New Forest, you know, and all of that kind of stuff. So I saw tons and tons. Hello, Matthew. He's like, we're not live, are we? You're just talking to Nici. At least he didn't get his willy outrage.
At least.
Yeah. Lauren, I love foraging. Yeah, and it's a really beautiful thing to be able to get to do. But a lot of people don't know the kind of foraging rule of take 1/10. But she's like telling him off now. Stop it, Matthew. Yeah, like take 1/10, leave the rest, because you know that other people are going to take as well. And you know, if everyone's following the same rule of just take a small amount, there will be plenty left for animals and wildlife, and you know, for the natural order of things as well. So yeah, actually going out and putting some back would be really beautiful. I saw when I was walking in the cemetery at Southampton, somebody had decorated the trees with baubles, and I thought, I'm trying not to give him any attention, Rach, because you know it's like attention. They keep coming back. Yeah, so like this tree had been decorated with baubles, which is really sweet. but they're plastic or glass, which isn't ideal. And actually, it would have been really lovely to see, you know, some apples strung up, some oranges strung up, some berries, or
even the popcorn that you were talking about earlier. Like that's, you know, that looks so pretty when it's strung up and it's put up places. Yes, absolutely. Warning, please ignore the strange man in the background. What was have you got any more books to talk about, Nici?
I mean, I can keep going, you know. There's an educational one for anyone who wants an educational one called The Shortest Day.
Nice.
Celebrating the winter solstice.
Ooh, yeah.
So it's Wendy Pfeiffer, and it's really beautiful.
The PF Pfeiffer. Yes, yeah.
So it's not necessarily about sort of Yule traditions and stuff. It's about lots of different ways in which winter solstice has been celebrated over the centuries and millennia. And it's also got some really lovely, you know, have a winter solstice party. You could sing "We Wish You a Happy Solstice." If you want to, making a winter solstice party for birds, showing how the tilt of the earth makes the seasons. So, you know, there's geeky stuff in there. There's some crafty stuff. Measuring your shadow on the shortest day. You know, lots of fun stuff in there. And the other one is one of the first books I read for Yule ever, which is The Tomten.
That looks lovely.
It is absolutely amazing. There's a whole series of these, and they're actually like super old. I can't remember how old. I don't know whether it says in here. I don't know. No, it doesn't. But basically, it's about the little magical creatures that live in farms, little elves, farm elves, or dwarfs. I'm not really sure what they are, but they basically go around looking after the animals and making sure everybody's safe and warm and supplied for throughout the winter while the farmer is sleeping. And it's their little adventures that they have.
Which is really, that's the whole legend of elves. And what's really interesting is that Saint Nicholas, who's obviously amalgamated in with the Green Man and become Father Christmas or Santa Claus or whatever you want to call him, is helped by elves who are totally pagan figures. So, you know, when we look at Christmas, we know that it's just an expression of Yule, effectively, and the Yule traditions that go with it. And we've had a lot of conversations about elves. Our favourite movie is Elf in this house. So we've had lots of conversations about elves and about how traditionally they were helpers and that they were there to help. So I love the idea of farm elves. Like, I love that idea.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. And I forgot to say that this is written by the lady who wrote Pippi Longstocking.
Nice.
Yeah. Rachel saw Lauren saw an elf today. Oh, she saw Tracy as an elf. Yes, I also encountered the elf called Tracy yesterday. So on silent feet, the Tomten visits the dreaming cows, the slumbering sheep, and the children sleeping soundly in their bed. He whispers softly to each of them, making sure they are warm and safe. It's just really lovely.
What you've made me do is to want about half a dozen books.
I know, right?
Yeah.
My friend Zach, you all know Zach. He actually bought this for his mum.
Oh.
I don't know if I'm not supposed. I might not be supposed to say that, but she doesn't follow us on Facebook.
No, I don't think she'll find out.
But yeah, this book, and I got a message and was like, "Oh my word, this is the most beautiful book for adults as well as children." Like, so I will keep going on about this book.
I love it. The badgers, just beautiful.
Isn't he? And he's so wise and so clever. And you know, he crystals are mentioned.
Oh wow!
Yeah. That's how the Christmas tree ends up the pine tree ends up getting decorated, is with geodes and things from the center of the earth.
Yes,
because that's where the badger lives.
Absolutely. Do you know what's really interesting is on Sunday I went to see Father Christmas, and the book that was read had illustrations in it of a really sweet badger, and it was a story about this badger and his friends and Chris. A really, really lovely story. Turns out that somebody who follows me on Facebook, and I know quite well, her friend did the illustrations for the book. And we were totally in love with the badger, and the badger is really significant when it comes to like pagan and traditional, like proper traditional European connections and belief systems.
And this is the funny thing, right? Is because everybody wants like a really exotic spirit animal of, like, you know, this amazing tiger, or, you know, nobody wants the badger or the hedgehog, you know, which are typical animals in our wonderful country, you know, or the fox.
And badgers are pretty ferocious as well. Like, you wouldn't want to mess with a badger. If you wanted a stonkingly powerful power animal, you couldn't go far wrong with a badger.
I know. And it's really interesting because I've had a mixture of badger and stag coming in ahead of Real World on Thursday as well. So I'm like, okay, we'll see what happens there with those two. But yeah, those are my books to share. Those five.
You mentioned earlier about buying books. I think that's probably quite, we'll have a quick conversation, but I think it's worth thinking about and being mindful of when we buy books. I like buying secondhand, although I am mindful of the fact that the author doesn't necessarily get paid again when we buy secondhand, so that always rings in the back of my head. But I do like secondhand books. I'm using a really nice site at the moment called World of Books, which I'd highly recommend. They do a lot for charity, and I've ordered Christmas books for Christmas, if that makes sense, this year through them. And they do a lot for charity. Like, they give a lot of books, and they do a lot of work within communities in order to encourage adult reading and things like that. They're genuinely, and I've signed up to that emailer, and it's lovely. Like, they've got like some really old like really old books. I was like, oh my god, like, you know, like real rare books, and just wonderful. Whatever book I wanted to get was available. Like, they have got like masses and masses of selection. So don't think that you're not going to get the same as you would do if you went to Amazon or Waterstones, because you do, and they're really honest about the condition, and they're really choosy about the condition as well. So I'd highly recommend them in terms of their ethos and in terms of the fact that you're buying secondhand. But you're really into a sort of co-op site at the moment, aren't you, Nick?
Yeah. So I have my own bookshop on bookshop.org, and the reason that I am affiliating with them is because they support independent bookshops. So you know, these are sort of brand new books, so not secondhand, but they basically, the profits from the books that they sell on the site go into a huge kitty, which is then given out to the independent bookstores that are a part of the cooperative. So you can also choose your own bookshop to support. So, for example, we've got October Books in Southampton. So for me, if I wanted to choose just that bookshop, then everything that I buy on Bookshop, any profit goes to that shop for anything that I buy. They do an affiliate scheme, so I get 10% of whatever books people choose off of my bookshop, or via my bookshop link, and then the rest of it goes to other people again as well, the independent bookstores, which is I I had wanted to, I basically recommend books all the time. A lot. And people had kept on at me, why don't you have an Amazon affiliate link, or, that kind of thing. And I did try, and Rach, you will know, it's quite a difficult thing, isn't it, to actually, do a little bit of good by, or get a little bit yourself by recommending books on Amazon. I still recommend certain books on Amazon, like Rachel's book, because your book is via Amazon, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's really important, that we're also supporting book authors who have self-published and maybe haven't been able to do a book run, and therefore have their book in physical bookstores. It's important that we are supporting those people like yourself as well, Rach. So if I was going to write a book, it would probably be self-published. So that would be an Amazon jobby, really.
Unless you've got several hundred, maybe even a grand's worth of money set to one side, it's a struggle not to use Amazon as an independent writer. So absolutely. And it is, Amazon does have its absolute benefits when it comes to things like that. And I think it's just being really mindful about where you get your books and why you're getting them. So Anna's just said that she loves that philosophy, meaning which we can support the writers and the printers, and absolutely, if that's something that's important for you, then Nici's recommendation, and it's something that I'll be setting up my own bookshop in there as well. If actually you like secondhand books, then the place that I'd recommend would be World of Books. They even do things like go to charity shops, because charity shops end up with so many books, and they take loads and loads of their books off them, which quite often go to landfill. Like charity shops have so many books that they go to landfill. So like if you can send your books even to somewhere like World of Books, if you're going to donate them, and then on top of that they give money to charity on top of that. So just kind of being mindful about who you, and I really like the idea of, like, I love my background as a mortgage advisor was in a building society, which is cooperative effectively. It's owned by the members. So I love the idea of a cooperative national book chain, effectively made out of local independent bookshops.
And like their delivery is not bad either. Like their last day to receive books before Christmas is the 16th. So it's a lot of people use Amazon because of the speed at which they can receive things, and I'm all for that myself. But sometimes it's really nice to be able to order a book and know that it's not going to be 4 weeks before it arrives. That's one of the reasons that a lot of people end up just going for Amazon instead of trying these kinds of things. So actually being able to say, I've ordered books from them, I've received them in a really timely manner, is really nice.
And that's the same experience that I've had with World of Books as well, is that it's free delivery. So that whole thing about, oh well, I've got Amazon Prime, you've got free delivery with them, and it was really quick when it came. It was just really nice, and they believe in free delivery because they don't want people to have an excuse not to buy books, basically.
I do also have a book list, Christmas books, on my bookshop at the moment. I'm just finding the link to chuck it on the comments, but basically it's books that I would want for Christmas if I didn't already have them.
Just a hint.
Well, the thing is, I put one on my Christmas list, and then it arrived for my birthday instead. So I've already read that one. That's finished. Green Lights, by the wonderful Matthew McConaughey, who is one of my favorite actors. So that's got a selection of children's books and adult books, and there's that really beautiful book by the King of Nature, David Attenborough. you know, there's some really lovely little books in there as well. Gender swapped fairy tales is one that I would really love to read. It's literally, you know, them swapping the gender around on the fairy tales. So I'm really interested in possibly getting that one for myself.
Well, the girl saving the day and all of that stuff sounds fab.
The front cover on it shows what would be Rapunzel, who is a man with a really, really long beard.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Like
and then there's a woman who looks super cool, like climbing up his beard kind of thing on the front cover. I don't think you'll be able to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So yeah, I don't know whether it's suitable for children, or I haven't actually looked that far into it. I just went, oh, I really would love that book. So yeah, there's lots of different books on there that might help, and the last day is the 16th, so last day to receive before Christmas.
Okay, so I think we should just do a very quick rundown, name check for anyone who's joined late. So my recommendations for this winter were The Moon by Britta Teckentrup, which is awesome. Dinosaur That Pooed Christmas by two lads out of McFly, Tom Fletcher and Dougie Pointer. It is quite gross. There are scenes of poo within it. And Night Before Christmas, the poem, which you'll be able to get in loads of different places, loads of different illustrations. That's my recommendations. And you'll run down it?
Yeah, so my you must buy this book is The Solstice Badger by Robin McFadden, which is absolutely stunning. The Tauntaun by Astrid Lindgren. I can never pronounce her name. The Shortest Day, if you're looking for something a bit educational, Wendy Pfeiffer. And then my two other favourites are The Night Tree by Eve Bunting, which is really, really beautiful. And this one is one that I would recommend everybody supports, because it's like a crowdfunder type one that she managed to get published. So Jennifer Hartman, Old Mother Frost, which is a really sweet book. And I was able to get that on Amazon, and it came really quickly. So those are mine.
Catherine, love the Dinosaur Poop series, absolutely. Yeah. Right, my lovelies, I think we are done for this evening. So thank you very much. This Friday, I have a live about a healing live. It's just going to be a nice, relaxing, you'll just, you know, trying to, I'm not going to say wash away this year, but just try and chill and take us to some nice places. And then on Sunday evening, Nici and I are joining each other again for a Yule connection and reflection 12 days. I'm like, what's that? It's the second time
doing that 10 days thing. I don't know what it is.
12 days of Yule, that's weird. 12 days of Yule, the traditional 12 days of Yule. And we're going to kick that off with on Mother's Night, which is the 20th, with a live to launch it, to talk about how you can personally join in, how to make it about you and not necessarily what we would do. And then there's just going to be some daily prompters coming in from us and us sharing what we've taken from it ourselves. And the idea is that we go through the 12 days and just reflect around a different subject daily, which, you know, is going to like be a hell of a lot better than making some cruddy New Year's resolution, basically.
Totally. Yeah, so it runs from the 20th to the 31st. I've been doing it for a few years now, and it is a really, really beautiful practice that I haven't really done a lot with in terms of sharing. So Rachel was kind of like, let's do this. So yeah, we're doing it. So that'll be really, really beautiful. I've written a pre-blog, just sharing some stuff which I'll refer back to throughout the 12 days as well on my page, Nici Rambles. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that on Sunday. And I can't believe it's 20th on Sunday.
I know, it's crazy. This year has just been really long and really short at the same time. I don't know how that can happen. Like the longest year over the shortest period. Like I don't, you know, we have literally been living in some time warp where things have just been going round and round for the last few weeks. Should add that on Thursday evening, if you're part of Real World Spirituality, or if you would like to be part of Real World Spirituality, where you will have more of this talk of dinosaur poop and other similar fun stuff, we will be covering Yule in depth with the group on Thursday. So Thursday evening is our Yule evening for the group, which should be fun.
Which will involve Christmas jumpers if everybody remembers to wear one.
Yes.
A time for Sunday, Rachel?
We haven't decided on a time. I was thinking if we do it late, it will be too late for people to get their backsides in gear. So maybe we might do it sort of 4 o'clock. Yeah, cool. We'll do it at 4 p.m. on Sunday. It works as good as anything else. And if you would like me to pop out an email with some nice reminders and bits and pieces on it, then just pop me your email address over. I do have a link on my page, which I'll pop up on the thread here if you want to put your email into a form as opposed to sending it to me. I will treat it confidentially no matter which way you send it to me. So yes, so if you'd like some pretty bits to go to work with it, then you are welcome to do that. Yeah, there we go. Right, everyone, have a really fab Monday evening. I think you can technically start eating all of your Christmas food now. So
I still haven't got any. Like that, I think it's weird that people have Christmas food already. Like
I went into Aldi and they had all like the European like gingerbread chocolate biscuit cake. I was like, oh, yeah. And we really started to troll away through it all. So yeah. Yeah.
It's probably because I still have like my weight in chocolate to get through from my birthday. So yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for having me, Rach.
Thank you for joining.
Pleasure. And see you all soon on either Thursday or on Sunday.
Bye.